Before we begin, I want you to remember the last time you asked yourself, why did they leave me just like that? You didn't get a reason. You didn't get closure. You didn't get answers. All you got was silence and an empty space where someone used to be. But what if that silence was the loudest sign Allah ever sent you? What if the absence you're grieving is actually the protection you prayed for? Because here's a truth you were never told. Allah removes people the moment their heart changes toward you. Not when you see it, not when they show it, but the exact second their intention shifts. Allah shields you before their jealousy reaches your soul. There are conversations that happened without you. Private words, hidden comments, dark feelings, moments you were never meant to hear. But Allah heard every single one, and He took them out of your story because your heart was too pure to survive the damage their presence was about to cause. If you knew what Allah protected you from, you would cry out of gratitude instead of crying out of loss. This 1 hour is going to open a door inside you, a door that explains why the separation happened, why the season ended, why the connection died, why the chapter closed right when you needed the person most. Stay with me till the end, because what you're about to understand will change how you see every goodbye for the rest of your life. This is the truth your heart has been waiting for. This is the clarity your soul has been begging Allah to send. And tonight, you're going to finally understand why He removed them before their jealousy reached you. Allah saw their jealousy before you ever felt it. There are people in your life whose hearts begin to change long before their faces do. You don't notice it because nothing on the surface looks different. They still greet you with the same smile. They still speak to you with the same voice. They still show up in your life with the same behavior. But inside them, something begins to shift quietly. A small jealousy starts to take shape. A tiny seed of envy begins to grow. A whisper of competition wakes up in their heart. A discomfort rises in their chest whenever they see you shine. They don't show this change. They hide it under laughter. They hide it under kindness. They hide it under friendship. They may even hide it from themselves. But Allah sees it instantly. Allah sees the exact moment their heart begins to tighten when your name is mentioned. Allah sees the exact moment their smile becomes forced when something good happens to you. Allah sees the exact moment their congratulation becomes empty without sincerity. Allah sees the exact moment their intentions tilt away from purity. Nothing is hidden from Allah. There are things you cannot hear, but Allah hears them. There are expressions you cannot read, but Allah reads them. There are feelings you cannot sense, but Allah senses them. There are prayers you don't know they make, but Allah knows every word. Sometimes a person's heart begins to darken quietly, slowly, silently, not because you harmed them, not because you wronged them, not because you did something hurtful, but because they allowed jealousy to enter their chest. Jealousy is like smoke. It fills a heart quietly before anyone outside notices the fire. Their mind begins to compare. Their heart begins to complain. Their soul becomes restless around you. Your presence starts reminding them of what they lack, and they try to hide this. They try to bury it under a smile. They try to pretend nothing changed. But Allah sees the shift no human eye can see. Allah sees when someone can no longer celebrate your blessings. Allah sees when someone's joy for you becomes irritation. Allah sees when someone's love for you becomes resentment. Allah sees when someone's admiration becomes envy. Allah sees when someone starts praying for themselves while hoping you don't rise too high. You don't see any of this. You are innocent. You trust easily. You love genuinely. You assume the best. You forgive without thinking. You open your heart without fear. This is your beauty, but it is also what makes you vulnerable. So Allah protects you in ways you do not understand yet. Before their jealousy could turn into words, Allah stepped in. Before their envy could turn into action, Allah stepped in. Before their bitterness could poison your peace, Allah stepped in. He removed them silently. He separated your paths gently. He closed the friendship softly. He placed distance between you without warning. He made the bond fade without a clear reason. To you, it felt sudden. It felt confusing. It felt painful. You thought something went wrong. You thought you made a mistake. You thought you were losing a good person. but Allah was saving you from a disaster you could not see. Allah knew their heart was no longer aligned with yours. Allah knew their intentions were shifting. Allah knew their silence held thoughts you were not meant to hear. Allah knew their presence was becoming harmful. Allah knew their jealousy would eventually reach you. So before the poison arrived, Allah removed the source. This is the mercy you didn't recognize. This is the protection you didn't understand. This is the love of Allah that you didn't see at the time. He took them out of your life in a way that felt unfair to you, but it was perfectly fair to your destiny. The separation felt sudden to you, but it was planned by Allah long before it happened. The distance felt random to you, but Allah wrote it at the exact second their heart changed. The ending felt painful to you, but Allah made sure it ended before the pain became a wound. You saw the loss. Allah saw the danger. You saw the ending. Allah saw the protection. You saw the heartbreak. Allah saw the healing you needed. You didn't know their heart anymore, but Allah did. He saw the jealousy they poured into private conversations. He saw the envy hidden inside their prayers. He saw the thoughts they battled when they compared their life to yours. He saw the shift that you were too loving to notice. And Allah said, this person cannot walk with you any further. So He gently removed them, not to punish you, not to leave you alone, not to make you suffer, but to save you from a chapter that would have broken your spirit in ways you could not recover from. Sometimes the most painful separation is the most powerful protection. Sometimes the person you miss the most is the person Allah protected you from the most. Sometimes Allah's mercy looks like heartbreak at first, but healing in the long run. People think their actions are hidden. They think their jealousy is invisible. They think their thoughts are private. But Allah sees everything. He saw the moment their heart changed, and He protected your heart before theirs could reach it. The truth is, you were never meant to see their jealousy directly. Allah hid it from you because your heart is too soft to handle such pain. Your nature is to give excuses, to forgive instantly, to blame yourself, to try to fix every broken thing. So Allah did not allow you to witness the moment they started resenting your blessings. He didn't allow you to hear the tone they used when they spoke about you behind your back. He didn't allow you to see the disappointment in their eyes when you received something they wanted. He didn't allow you to feel the heaviness of their jealousy when they looked at your happiness. Allah concealed it to protect your heart from breaking, and then He removed them to protect your life from damage. He knows how deeply you love. He knows how quickly you trust. He knows how strongly you attach. He knows how much you feel. He knew that if He showed you the truth too clearly, your heart would collapse under the weight of betrayal. So instead of revealing everything, He simply guided you away. You didn't understand the silence. You didn't understand the sudden distance. You didn't understand the unexpected ending. You asked yourself again and again, what happened? What changed? What did I do? But the truth is, nothing was wrong with you. Something was wrong with them. Their heart shifted and Allah protected you from the impact. When a believer's heart is pure, Allah does not allow corrupted hearts to stay connected for too long. He separates them the moment the danger begins, even if the believer does not see the danger. This is Allah's love. Silent, invisible, but always perfect. He knew that keeping them in your life would drain you slowly. He knew they had started comparing their life to yours. He knew they felt threatened by your growth. He knew they felt insecure around your blessings. He knew they could not handle watching you rise. And when someone's heart cannot celebrate your blessings anymore, Allah does not allow them to stay close to those blessings. This is why the separation felt confusing at first. It didn't match anything you could see. But Allah was not acting based on what you could see. He was acting based on what He saw in their heart. There is a moment in every soul where jealousy becomes dangerous. Not when it is silent, not when it is small, but when it starts shaping their intentions, when their intention toward you becomes unclear, when their trust toward you becomes weak, when their loyalty becomes unstable, that is when their presence becomes unsafe. And Allah does not allow unsafe hearts to walk beside you for long. Sometimes you were saved from a conversation that would have destroyed you. Sometimes you were protected from a look that would have haunted you. Sometimes you were kept away from a moment where their jealousy would have finally slipped out. You think the ending hurt you, but the truth is Allah removed them the second their presence became harmful. He did not wait for their jealousy to turn into action. He did not wait for their envy to turn into words. He did not wait for their bitterness to turn into betrayal. He removed them before the damage reached you. This is why the ending felt early to you, because Allah protected you before the storm even began. Imagine if Allah had allowed you to stay one more month, one more week, even one more day. You might have faced a wound that would take years to heal. You might have heard a word that would burn your heart. You might have seen an action that would break your spirit. You might have uncovered a truth that would shatter your trust in people forever. So instead of letting you walk into a fire you couldn't see, Allah pulled you out of the room before the flame started. You thought the door closed too quickly, but Allah closed it early because He didn't want you to burn. You didn't lose them, you escaped a disaster. You didn't experience a random breakup, you experienced a divine rescue. You didn't face abandonment, you received protection. And the more you understand this, the more you will realize how deeply Allah loves you. He saw what was forming behind your back. He heard what was spoken in private. He knew the path of their heart. He knew the direction of their jealousy. He knew the outcome if you stayed connected. So He intervened early at the exact moment of danger, not a second too late, not a second too early. Perfect timing, just like a parent who pulls a child away from a cliff, even before the child realizes how close the fall is. In the same way, Allah pulled you away before you realized how close the harm was. You cried because the bond ended, but you would have cried much more if Allah had allowed you to stay long enough to see what was truly inside their heart. Allah protected your innocence by not letting you experience the ugliness of their jealousy. Sometimes Allah saves you by removing what you loved before it has the chance to destroy your peace. The heart feels the separation. The soul feels the emptiness. But one day, your wisdom will feel the protection. There will come a moment, much later, when your mind is clearer, when you will finally say, Allah, I didn't understand it then, but now I see why. You removed them. Your tears today are the protection of tomorrow. Your confusion today is the clarity of your future. Your loneliness today is the safety Allah wrapped around you without you even knowing. Sometimes Allah protects you in ways that look like heartbreak to you, but look like mercy from Him. He saw the jealousy forming and He never let it reach you. Allah knew your heart was too pure for their hidden poison. There are hearts in this world that carry softness like a gift from Allah. Hearts that love without calculation. Hearts that trust without fear. Hearts that give without stopping to measure how much they have left inside. Your heart is one of those. You don't know how to pretend. You don't know how to hate. You don't know how to play games. You don't know how to hold on to grudges. You care deeply even when others care lightly. You give sincerely, even when others give halfway. You love honestly, even when others hide their true feelings. You support quietly, even when others only support when watched. This purity inside you is rare. It is precious. It is beautiful. And because it is beautiful, Allah protects it with more care than you realize. Some people cannot handle a heart like yours, not because they are weak, but because their own heart is not trained to be clean. They do not know how to appreciate pure intentions. They do not know how to honor sincere affection. They do not know how to value genuine loyalty. So instead of loving your purity, they feel threatened by it. Instead of appreciating your kindness, they take advantage of it. Instead of protecting your heart, they test it. And slowly, without you knowing, your purity becomes painful to them. Not because you did something wrong, but because they see in you what they wish they had in themselves. This is where jealousy begins. Jealousy is not always loud. It doesn't always look like anger. It doesn't always look like hatred. Sometimes jealousy looks like sudden silence. Sometimes jealousy looks like distance without explanation. Sometimes jealousy looks like forced smiles. Sometimes jealousy looks like a heart that can't celebrate your joy anymore. You don't notice this change because you only know how to see the good. You only know how to assume the best. You only know how to excuse people's mistakes. You only know how to forgive before being asked. Allah knows your heart is too pure to detect hidden poison. He knows you would keep loving people even after they start harming you silently. He knows you would keep trusting them even after their intentions change. He knows you would keep giving them chances even after they stop deserving them. So Allah does what your heart cannot do. He removes them. He separates you from people who are not clean inside, people who do not carry sincerity, people whose affection is mixed with envy, people whose presence looks peaceful but whose hearts carry harm. Allah knows that if He let them stay near you, their hidden poison would slowly drip into your life. Not through actions at first, but through energy, through attitude, through tone, through behavior that would confuse you, through emotions that would drain you, through words that would wound you without explanation. Your pure heart would blame itself. You would think you are the problem. You would wonder why they changed. You would try to fix things that were never your fault. Allah did not want your purity to carry the weight of someone else's darkness. So He separated you as an act of mercy, akiyat, invisible mercy that you did not understand at the time. Every time someone leaves your life suddenly, you feel the pain, but Allah feels the danger. Allah knows their heart. Allah knows their intention. Allah knows their jealousy. Allah knows their energy. Allah knows their silence. Allah knows their secrets. He knows the harm before the harm reaches you. Some people smile at you, but their heart prays against you. Some people hug you, but their soul resents your existence. Some people admire you, but can't tolerate seeing you blessed. Some people walk beside you while quietly hoping you trip. You don't see this. You don't read their heart. You don't pick up on the hints. You don't detect their hidden feelings. Your purity protects you from suspecting people. Allah protects you from being hurt by them. Your heart is soft, their heart is sharp. Your nature is gentle, their nature is unstable. Your intentions are clean, their intentions are mixed. Allah sees the difference. Allah sees the hidden dangers. Allah sees the emotional poison they carry. People think poison only comes through actions, but the most dangerous poison is the one that comes through intentions. A jealous heart can break a blessing. An envious heart can destroy peace. A bitter heart can shatter a connection. Allah never allows a pure heart to stay connected to a poisoned one for long. So He removes them at the right moment, even if that moment feels sudden to you. It hurts, yes, but it saves you. It confuses you, yes, but it protects you. It breaks you, yes, but it rebuilds you in a safer space. You were meant to love, not to be harmed. You were meant to give, not to be drained. You were meant to trust, not to be wounded. You were meant to grow, not to be poisoned. Their heart was not clean enough to stay close to yours. That is why Allah took them away. Before their hidden envy reached your peace, before their silent bitterness reached your future, before their inner darkness reached your light, Allah knew your purity and He protected it by removing what your heart was too kind to remove. Some people were never going to add goodness to your journey. They were going to add confusion. They were going to add heaviness. They were going to add silent tests you were not supposed to face. And Allah, in His wisdom, removed them before the test reached your heart. Your purity is like clear water. Their hidden poison is like drops of ink. Even one drop can change everything. Even one conversation with jealousy in it can shift your peace. Even one moment of envy can create storms inside your soul. Allah did not want your calm heart to be shaken by their silent storms. So He pulled you away quietly, gently, mercifully. There were nights when you cried, trying to understand why someone changed, why someone pulled back, why someone became distant, why someone who once valued you suddenly acted like you didn't matter. But the truth is, they didn't change suddenly. Their heart changed long before their behavior did. You just didn't see the signs because your heart is pure, and pure hearts always assume goodness even when goodness is no longer there. You think people leave because of something you did, but many times they leave because of something Allah saw in them, something you were never meant to see. If Allah had shown you the truth of their heart, it would have broken you. So instead of letting you discover it, He simply removed the person. This is protection disguised as loss. This is mercy disguised as separation. Your softness is your beauty, but it is also what makes you vulnerable. Allah knows this. So He surrounds your life with invisible walls of protection you don't always recognize in the moment. You do not realize how many dangers He blocks from reaching you. You do not realize how many jealous hearts He keeps away from you. You do not realize how many people He disconnects you from because they carried something inside them that was not good for your soul. People may have smiled at you, but inside their heart was burning with envy. People may have supported you publicly, but in private they questioned why Allah blessed you so much. People may have praised you in front of others, but inside their ego was hurting. You didn't see any of this because you believe what your eyes see. But Allah believes what His knowledge knows, and His knowledge is perfect. He saw their inner world. He saw their emotional instability. He saw their spiritual sickness. He saw their inability to value your purity. So He protected your heart by separating you from theirs. Think of how much pain Allah saved you from. Think of the wounds you never had to feel. Think of the betrayal you never had to witness. Think of the heartbreak you never had to experience. Think of the traps you never had to fall into. Think of the envy that never reached your blessings. Think of the harm that never touched your peace. If Allah had allowed them to stay, they would have drained your spirit slowly. They would have weakened your peace. They would have confused your emotions. They would have made you question your worth. Instead, Allah removed them before the damage reached you. This is why some endings felt early. This is why some separations felt confusing. This is why some connections faded without reason. This is why some friendships died without closure. Allah saw the heart behind the face. Allah saw the intention behind the gesture. Allah saw the envy behind the smile. And because your heart is pure, He refused to let you walk into hidden darkness. Their presence in your life would have taken something precious from you. Your peace, your light, your innocence, your energy, your clarity, your closeness to Allah. So Allah removed them to protect everything inside you that He loves. You were created to grow in faith, not to shrink because of jealousy. You were created to rise in purity, not to be wounded by hidden envy. You were created to reflect goodness, not to absorb someone else's bitterness. Sometimes people cannot handle the light that Allah placed in you. Your purity reminds them of what they lost in themselves. Your sincerity reminds them of how insincere they have become. Your peace reminds them of the storms in their own soul. Your blessings remind them of the ones they feel they deserved. And instead of working on their heart, they aim their frustration toward you. Allah sees this shift the moment it begins, long before you ever sense it. He sees when someone's heart becomes unsafe for you. He sees when their presence becomes heavy for your soul. He sees when their eyes no longer carry love for you. He sees when jealousy becomes the lens through which they see your entire existence. So Allah protects you. The way the sky protects the earth from storms, by moving the clouds before they burst. He removes them before their jealousy becomes a wound. He separates you before their poison becomes a reaction. He distances you before their intentions become harmful. He ends the bond before their presence becomes dangerous. Your heart is too pure to fight wars you cannot see. So Allah fights them for you. You didn't know you were walking toward danger, but Allah knew. You didn't know their jealousy was growing, but Allah knew. You didn't know they were becoming a test, but Allah knew. You only saw the separation. Allah saw the protection. You only felt the heartbreak. Allah felt the harm coming. You only cried over the ending. Allah prevented a disaster you could not have handled. There will come a time, maybe months later, maybe years later, when you will look back and say with a full heart, Allah, thank you for removing what I didn't realize was hurting me. Your purity was too valuable to stay near a poisoned heart. So Allah protected you by removing them before their hidden darkness reached your light. Allah ends connections when they can no longer handle your growth. There are moments in life when Allah begins to grow you on the inside long before anything changes on the outside. Your thinking becomes deeper. Your patience becomes stronger. Your priorities begin to shift. Your heart becomes more aware. Your spirit begins to mature. And without realizing it, you become a different person. Not louder, not bigger, but deeper, calmer, more focused, more stable. more aligned with who Allah wants you to become. But not everyone around you can handle this shift. Some people love the older version of you, the version that doubted itself, the version that needed validation, the version that stayed small to make others comfortable, the version that tried to fit into places that were too tight for the soul Allah placed inside you. They were comfortable with your old self because your old self made them feel secure. Your old self did not challenge their ego. Your old self did not threaten their weaknesses. Your old self did not highlight their insecurities. But the moment Allah started growing you, the moment you began thinking clearer, the moment your soul began rising, the moment your heart began waking up, some people around you could no longer handle it. Not because you hurt them, not because you changed in a bad way, but because they were not ready to accept a stronger, wiser, more spiritually awake version of you. Growth is beautiful, but it exposes the truth in others. Your growth reveals who can celebrate you and who can only tolerate you. Your growth reveals who truly loves you and who only loved the version of you that needed them. Your growth reveals who is secure and who is silently threatened. Your growth reveals who wants to rise with you and who only wants you if you stay below them. Allah knows the hidden reality of every heart. He knows who can handle your rise and who cannot. He knows who can walk with you into your future and who would block your path with jealousy or fear. He knows who will support your elevation and who will silently resent it. When someone cannot handle your growth, Allah ends the connection before it becomes painful. This is why some relationships end right when you begin to heal. This is why some friendships fade right when your self-worth improves. This is why some people pull away right when your heart becomes stronger. This is why some connections break right when your mind becomes clearer. It is not coincidence. It is divine timing. Allah sees the parts of your journey that others cannot walk with you. He sees the weight that some hearts cannot carry. He sees the insecurity that some souls feel when yours starts shining. He sees the jealousy that grows when you start stepping into the person He designed you to be. And so He ends the connection before their insecurities turn into harm, before their jealousy becomes a test, before their discomfort becomes a barrier, before their resentment becomes a wound. Allah does not remove people randomly. He removes them with wisdom. He removes those who cannot stand your growth. He removes those who cannot celebrate your blessings. He removes those who pretend to be happy for you, but secretly fear you will rise higher than them. He removes those who only stay as long as you remain small. People say, you've changed. But the truth is you didn't change. You grew. And not everyone has the heart to grow with you. Some people need you to remain the weaker version of yourself because your weakness made them feel powerful. Your confusion made them feel needed. Your emptiness made them feel important. Your instability made them feel superior. But when Allah begins to fill you from the inside, when He begins to anchor your soul, when He begins to strengthen your mind, when He begins to heal your wounds, when He begins to replace your insecurities with faith, suddenly, those who were comfortable with your brokenness cannot handle your wholeness. So they step back, they grow silent, they distance themselves, they criticize you, they misunderstand you, they label your growth as arrogance. When your heart is simply awakening, what you see as they are leaving me is actually Allah saying, these people cannot walk with the person I'm creating inside you. End. Allah ends connections when they start holding you down instead of lifting you up. He ends connections when they would make your spiritual growth harder. He ends connections when keeping them would cost you your peace, your purpose, or your closeness to Him. Sometimes Allah ends a connection because the person would have slowed down your destiny. Sometimes He ends a connection because the person would have turned your growth into guilt. Sometimes He ends a connection because the person would have used your rise as a weapon against you. Sometimes He ends a connection because the person would have made you feel small again. Allah wants you to rise without apology, without hesitation, without fear of losing people, because the people who leave during your growth were never meant to stay in your future. Growth is a doorway, but not everyone can pass through it with you. Some people are tied to the version of you that Allah is replacing. They loved you when you were lost. They loved you when you were broken. They loved you when you doubted yourself. They loved you when you didn't understand your worth. They loved you when you didn't know how to set boundaries. They loved you when you didn't know your value. But the moment you start rising, the moment you start loving yourself, the moment you start respecting your soul, the moment you start focusing on your purpose, the moment you start growing, their connection to you weakens. Not because you have become bad, but because they cannot handle the new light Allah placed inside you. Some people can only handle you when you are small enough to fit inside their insecurities. Once you outgrow that space, they step away because your presence exposes their stagnation. Your growth reminds them of their lack of growth. Your rise reminds them of their fear of rising. Your clarity reminds them of their confusion. Your strength reminds them of their weakness. Your healing reminds them of their wounds. So Allah separates you before your growth becomes a mirror that they cannot bear to look into. Some connections are broken gently, so your destiny does not break violently. If Allah kept them in your life, they would have tried to make you shrink again. They would have tried to bring you down to their level. They would have tried to make you doubt your path. They would have tried to shame you for improving. They would have tried to limit the person you are becoming. So Allah removed them to protect your transformation. When Allah begins to elevate your spirit, He removes anyone who would make you doubt your own wings. He removes anyone who would turn your growth into guilt. He removes anyone who would make you feel wrong for becoming stronger. He removes anyone who would pull you backward just to keep themselves comfortable. Your growth makes some people uncomfortable because your healing reveals their wounds. Your clarity reveals their confusion. Your discipline reveals their laziness. Your peace reveals their chaos. Your connection with Allah reveals their distance from Him. They don't say it out loud. They don't show it in obvious ways, but their heart feels threatened by the person you are becoming. Allah sees this shift immediately. When your growth threatens someone's insecurity, that person is no longer safe for your journey. And Allah will not let an unsafe heart stay close to yours. So air that touches you, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once, sometimes through distance, sometimes through silence, sometimes through misunderstandings, sometimes through an ending that feels sharp and sudden. But the ending is never without wisdom. If Allah kept them close, they would have watered your doubts, not your dreams. They would have nourished your fears, not your faith. They would have held you hostage to the version of yourself that Allah is trying to free you from. Some people can only love the version of you that is easy for them to manage. But growth makes you larger. Growth makes your spirit heavier. Growth makes your soul deeper. Growth makes your heart more awake. And not everyone has the strength to stand beside a heart that Allah is elevating. People who once felt equal to you might suddenly feel small in comparison. Not because you belittle them, but because your inner growth highlights the areas where they refuse to grow. Your spiritual rise becomes a mirror, showing them what they chose to ignore within themselves. Some people would rather step away from you than face their own reflection. Allah knows the hidden pain that would come if He allowed that connection to continue. He knows how much their insecurity would harm your peace. He knows how much their resentment would hurt your heart. He knows how much their jealousy would delay your destiny. So He removes them before their insecurity reaches your soul. And even though the separation feels painful at first, it saves you from a deeper pain later. You start to blame yourself. You ask what you did wrong. You replay the past. You try to fix what Allah has already closed. You try to understand the ending. But the truth is simple. You grew. They didn't. And Allah protected you by ending the connection. Your growth is not meant to shrink for anyone. Your spiritual awakening is not meant to apologize for shining. Your evolution is not meant to be hidden just to keep someone comfortable. Allah wants you to rise freely. He wants you to rise fully. He wants you to rise without fear of losing people who cannot celebrate your becoming. Not everyone is meant to walk into every chapter of your destiny. Some people are only written into the early pages. Their role ends when your growth begins. Their presence served a purpose, but their absence will serve a greater one. Allah removes people when their season in your story is complete, when their chapter has reached its end, when their presence would now cost you your peace, when their heart cannot handle your elevation. Sometimes the people who held your hand yesterday cannot walk with you tomorrow, not because of hate, but because of spiritual imbalance. Growth requires courage. They may not have it. Growth requires self-awareness. They may avoid it. Growth requires humility. They may not hold it, But Allah gave those qualities to you, and because you have them, your growth threatens those who refuse to acquire them. So Allah pulls you into a new environment with new people, new energy, new support, new understanding, new spiritual mirrors who reflect the version of you. He is building the people who leave your life when you begin to grow are not enemies. They are simply souls whose emotional capacity cannot hold the spiritual weight Allah is placing inside you. If they stayed, they would shrink you, they would dim you, they would second guess your direction, they would question your transformation, they would guilt trip your growth, they would pull you back to a version of yourself that Allah has already buried. Allah removes people who can no longer walk with you because the future He wrote for you requires a different circle, a cleaner environment, a more supportive heart space. If Allah kept certain people in your life, you would outgrow them so fast that the friction would become a storm. Arguments, misunderstandings, tension, energy imbalance, silent yelose, emotional heaviness. Instead of making you face that storm, Allah removes the source. He cuts the connection before the harm begins. He breaks the tie before the resentment grows. He ends the bond before the jealousy forms roots. He closes the chapter before their discomfort turns into actions that would wound your heart. You think you were abandoned, but you were actually promoted. Allah elevated your soul, and when He elevates someone, He removes anything that does not match the level He is calling them to. Imagine carrying a balloon upward. If someone is holding onto the string, the balloon cannot rise. If someone is gripping it tightly, the balloon can never reach the sky. Your growth is that balloon. Allah is the one lifting it. But certain people were holding onto your string, keeping you from rising, even without realizing it. So Allah gently loosened their grip. He separated your paths. He released you from environments that kept your wings folded. Your wings were designed to open. Your faith was designed to deepen. Your soul was designed to rise. Your destiny was designed to expand. So Allah removed the people who would have made you shrink just to make themselves feel tall. One day, you will look back and understand that the people who left were not meant to handle the weight of the person you were becoming. They were meant to know you as you once were, not as who you are becoming. Your growth was protected. Your future was protected. Your spirit was protected. And Allah ended the connection because the new version of you deserves people who can celebrate your rise. Instead of fear it, their hidden conversations were heard by Allah, not by you. There are moments in life when you feel confused by the way someone suddenly changed toward you. They became distant. They became strange. They stopped calling. They stopped showing the love they once showed. And you're left wondering what happened, what shifted, what caused the silence. But the truth is something you could not see, something hidden, something spoken far from your ears, something whispered in private, something that was never meant to reach your heart. Allah heard conversations that you were never supposed to hear. Words that would have broken you. Words that would have made you question yourself. Words that would have turned your heart into a battlefield of doubts. Words that would have stolen your peace. And because Allah loved you too much to let your heart absorb that pain, He shielded you from it. He didn't expose the words. He didn't show you the people who said them. He didn't allow the truth to reach you. Instead, He removed the person quietly, so quietly that you didn't even realize you were being protected. Some hearts speak good in front of you, but speak differently when you are not there. They show kindness to your face, but release jealousy behind your back. They smile when you enter, but complain about you after you leave. They praise you publicly, but criticize you privately. These shifts, these contradictions, these hidden complaints, Allah hears every single one. Allah listens to every conversation, whether it is spoken in the open or in the darkness, whether it is whispered in a room or typed in a message, whether it is said with a playful tone or hidden in a joke, whether it is expressed in subtle sarcasm or deep resentment. Humans don't hear everything, but the one who created hearing hears it all. And He protects the innocent heart from the wounds it does not deserve. There are words that would have shattered your confidence if they had reached you. There are sentences that would have crushed your soul There are opinions that would have broken your self-esteem. There are comments that would have left permanent scars. Allah did not let you hear them. He shielded your ears from poison that your heart was too pure to handle. He protected your spirit from voices that were too toxic to absorb. He saved you from conversations that were never meant for you. Not everything spoken about you is meant to reach you. Not every truth is good for your heart. Not every comment deserves to sit in your memory. Not every opinion needs to enter your soul. Allah decides what reaches you and what gets blocked. Sometimes the biggest blessing is what Allah doesn't let you hear. Some people carry jealousy so quietly that even their closest loved ones don't notice. Some people carry bitterness so silently that even their closest friends miss it. Some people carry resentment so deeply that you only see the surface. And on the surface, they may still look loyal. They may still look gentle. They may still look supportive. They may still look encouraging. But Allah hears what lies behind the surface. People can hide their emotions from you, but they cannot hide them from Allah. People can pretend in front of you, but they cannot pretend in front of the one who sees the heart. When Allah hears a conversation that would harm your peace, He removes the speaker, not the innocent. He distances you from that person because He knows their words carry wounds that would take years for you to heal. And Allah does not want your life to be shaped by the voices of those who do not understand your worth. There were times people discussed you with envy. Times they compared themselves to you with bitterness. Times they felt threatened by your blessings. Times they believed you didn't deserve the happiness Allah gave you. Times they labeled you wrongly because they could not stand your growth. You were not there, but Allah was. And He protected you from a truth that would have crushed your heart. When Allah removed someone from your life, you thought it was random. You thought it was sudden. You thought it was unfair. You thought you did something wrong. But the truth is, Allah heard a conversation that would have destroyed your trust forever. You didn't lose them. You were protected from them. Allah heard tone changes you didn't hear. Allah heard subtle insults you didn't catch. Allah heard jealousy hidden behind compliments. Allah heard frustration hidden behind silence. Allah heard bitterness hidden behind jokes. He hears the things that your heart cannot survive. And when He hears something harmful, He doesn't wait for it to reach you. He doesn't wait for it to explode. He doesn't wait for the situation to worsen. He protects you before the wound forms. People sometimes think that hurting others behind their back won't have consequences. But the one who listens to every whisper protects the one being spoken about. That is why some friendships end quietly. That is why some relationships fade suddenly. That is why some people distance themselves without explanation. That is why some connections stop without closure. Allah heard something and He removed you from the line of fire. He removed you before their words could reach your heart. He removed you before their tone could break your spirit. He removed you before their criticism could confuse your self-worth. He removed you before their jealousy could touch your peace. What felt like loss to you was actually protection from Allah. If He had shown you everything said behind your back, your trust in people would collapse. Your heart would bleed. Your nights would be sleepless. Your faith in relationships would weaken. Your soul would carry questions it was never meant to carry. So instead of giving you the full truth, Allah gave you distance from the people whose words carried the potential to destroy pieces of you. And that is one of the greatest forms of divine protection. Sometimes Allah hides the conversation and reveals the result. He hides the words and reveals the wisdom. He hides the betrayal and reveals the separation. He hides the poison and reveals the exit. Humans show their actions. Allah shows their hearts. That is why Allah removed certain people from your life at the exact moment He did. Maybe you wanted them to stay. Maybe you cried for them. Maybe you prayed for them. Maybe you longed for them. Maybe you believed in them. But Allah knew what was said when you were not there, and He knows your heart was never meant to hear it. Allah removes people who would have delayed your destiny. There are people you wanted to keep in your life forever. People you believed would walk with you to the end. People you trusted supported and prayed for. People you thought were part of your future. People you imagined in every chapter of your destiny. But Allah saw something you didn't. He saw the parts of their heart that were not ready for the places He was taking you. He saw the delays they would create. He saw the confusion they would bring. He saw the heaviness they would add to your journey. So He removed them, not to hurt you, not to punish you, not to isolate you, but to protect the path that He wrote for you long before you were born. There are people who look harmless today, but would have slowed your destiny tomorrow. People whose presence feels comfortable, but whose future with you would have been painful. People whose energy feels familiar, but whose connection would have held you back. When Allah removes someone, it is never without wisdom. He removes those who cannot handle where you are going. He removes those who would drain the strength you'll need later. He removes those who would delay the blessings He has prepared for you. He removes those who would keep you stuck in chapters you were meant to outgrow. Sometimes Allah removes a person not because they are bad, but because your journey requires speed, clarity, and elevation, things they cannot give you. Some people are attached to your past, not your future. Attached to your wounds, not your healing. Attached to your weaknesses, not your growth. Attached to your old identity, not the one Allah is building inside you. And Allah will not let someone who belongs to your past block the doors of your future. When a person's presence would slow down your rise, Allah ends the connection. It might look like a breakup. It might look like a friendship ending. It might look like distance. It might look like silence. It might look like betrayal. It might look like a sudden shift. But spiritually, it is movement. It is clearing. It is preparation. It is protection. It is divine alignment. Some people are like weights. You carry them because you love them. You carry them because you feel loyal. You carry them because you feel safe with the familiar. You carry them because you fear letting go. But Allah says that the weight will slow you down when it's time to run toward the destiny He wrote for you. So He gently, quietly, mercifully removes the weight before the journey becomes heavy. If Allah had let them stay, your steps would slow, your clarity would fade, your spirit would weaken, your mind would become confused, your peace would become shaky, and your progress would be delayed. You would start walking backward while thinking you're moving forward. Allah loves you too much to let your destiny be delayed by someone who cannot carry their own heart. When Allah knows you have a future that requires strength and freedom, He removes people who were becoming emotional anchors. Their presence would have kept you standing in a place Allah never intended you to stay. Their presence would have held your heart in a chapter that was already closing. Their presence would have convinced you to settle for less than what Allah planned for you. And Allah will never let you settle for a destiny smaller than the one He wrote. Sometimes the person delaying you is the person you love the most. Sometimes the obstacle is someone you trust deeply. Sometimes the weight is someone you pray for every night. Allah sees the future you cannot see, and He removes people when their chapter in your life has ended in His wisdom, even if it hasn't ended in your heart. You don't understand the removal because you still see potential in them. But Allah sees reality. He sees the harm before it happens. He sees the heartbreak before it forms. He sees the betrayal before it manifests. He sees the conflict before it appears. He sees the delay before you walk into it. And He removes the cause before the damage arrives. Some people cannot go with you because the roads you will walk require faith they don't have. Patience they don't practice. Discipline they don't hold. Courage they don't live. Integrity they don't value. Spiritual depth they don't understand. Allah separates paths when destinies do not align. If both of you continued together, one of two things would have happened. Either you would slow down to match their pace, or you would be forced to carry someone who refuses to grow with you. Both would delay the journey. Allah designed for you, so He removes them to remove the delay. Sometimes Allah removes people because you prayed for success they cannot handle. You prayed for change they are not ready for. You prayed for growth they are not capable of matching. You prayed for blessings they would slowly destroy. You prayed for clarity that would expose their intentions. Allah answers prayers in ways you don't always understand. You asked for strength, so He removed those who weakened you. You asked for peace, so He removed those who disturbed you. You asked for healing, so He removed those who reopened wounds. You asked for elevation, so He removed those who pulled you down. You asked for guidance, so He removed those who misled your heart. You asked for clarity, so He removed those who confused your soul. And you cried when they left, not realizing your own dua moved them out of the way. Allah removes people when their presence becomes a delay to the life you begged Him for. You saw separation. Allah saw acceleration. You saw loss. Allah saw protection. You saw heartbreak. Allah saw the breaking of chains that were holding your destiny hostage. One day, you will look back and say with a heart full of understanding, if Allah had let them stay, I would have never reached where I am today. Allah separates you when their presence becomes a test. There comes a time in your journey when someone's presence begins to test your heart more than it brings you peace. You don't understand it at first. Nothing obvious happens. No fight. No argument, no clear reason, but something feels heavier inside you. Something feels tighter. Something feels unsettled. Something feels draining. And you wonder why. It's because Allah sees what you cannot see. He sees when a person's presence begins to pull you away from Him. He sees when their influence begins to shake your spiritual stability. He sees when their habits begin to weaken your heart. He sees when their energy begins to disturb your peace. He sees when their mindset begins to interfere with your growth. Allah doesn't only protect you from enemies, He also protects you from tests you are not strong enough to pass. And sometimes that test is a person you love deeply, a person whose words slowly confuse you, a person whose behavior quietly drains you, a person whose choices influence you more than you realize, a person whose presence distracts you from the version of yourself Allah wants you to become. You think you're strong enough to handle them, but Allah knows your unseen weaknesses. He knows the hidden buttons inside you. He knows the emotional patterns that pull you down. He knows the attachments you struggle to control. He knows the temptations that weaken your spirit. He knows the loneliness that makes you tolerate what harms you. So instead of letting you fall into a test that would break you, Allah separates you from the source. Even if you cry, even if you don't understand, even if you feel confused, even if you feel abandoned, Allah is saving you from a test you would not have survived. Some people become tests slowly, not through obvious harm, but through subtle effects. They occupy your mind until your prayers lose focus. They take space in your heart until your connection with Allah grows faint. They become your priority until remembrance of Allah becomes secondary. They influence your decisions until your values begin to shift. They affect your emotions until your spiritual strength becomes fragile. You don't notice the change because it happened quietly, gently, softly, but Allah notices instantly. He sees when a relationship begins to pull your heart in a direction opposite from your purpose. He sees when a bond becomes heavier than your soul can carry. He sees when a person's presence becomes a doorway for shaitan to enter. He sees when your spirit begins to depend more on a person than on Him. A person doesn't have to be bad to become a test for you. Sometimes their test lies in the hold they have over you, how much you're willing to bend for them, how easily you lose yourself around them, how deeply you allow them to define your worth, how strongly you attach your happiness to their approval. This attachment becomes a spiritual trap, and Allah loves you too much to let you remain trapped. So He separates you, sometimes through distance, sometimes through misunderstandings, sometimes through silence, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through a door that closes even though you begged for it to stay open. This separation is not rejection, it is protection. Allah removes what weakens you, even when you still love it. He removes what distracts you, even when you pray to keep it. He removes what harms you, even when you don't realize it. A test doesn't always look like hardship. Sometimes a test looks like comfort that weakens your discipline. Sometimes a test looks like love that blinds your judgment. Sometimes a test looks like companionship that slowly pulls you away from Allah. If a person keeps guiding your heart toward confusion, that is a test. If a person repeatedly disturbs your inner peace, that is a test. If a person influences your choices in ways that lower your standards, that is a test. If a person becomes the center of your life more than Allah, that is a major test. And when Allah sees that you are leaning on someone more than you lean on Him, ese parat is you to bring you back to Himself. Not to punish you, not to hurt you, but to save you. There are people whose presence would have taken you away from your future prayers, away from your future blessings, away from your future peace, away from your future closeness to Allah. You only saw the relationship. Allah saw the spiritual impact. You only saw the comfort. Allah saw the corruption of your heart. You only saw the affection. Allah saw the weakness it created in your soul. You only saw the bond. Allah saw the delay it created in your destiny. Sometimes Allah separates you because He knows that if He lets you continue, you will lose pieces of yourself you were never meant to lose. Your self-worth, your self-respect, your identity, your values, your peace, your connection with Allah. He removes people who would have broken what He is trying to build inside you. When their presence becomes a test, Allah does not allow them to stay. Even if you wanted them, even if you prayed for them, even if you begged for them, even if you loved them in ways words cannot describe, Allah sees the danger you were unable to recognize. He sees the emotional dependency forming. He sees the compromise of values. He sees the weakening of your heart. He sees the slow spiritual decline. He sees the internal conflict you were ignoring. He sees the sins you were falling into because of them. He sees the confusion they brought into your life. And Allah never leaves a believer in a place where their soul begins to suffocate. So He separates you to save your faith before the damage becomes irreversible. There were things they would have led you into that your soul was not built to handle. There were situations they would have dragged you into that would have broken your spirit. There were habits they would have introduced that would have stained your purity. There were decisions you would have made for their sake that would have taken you far from Allah. So Allah removed them before your heart wandered too far. He pulled you back before you surrendered parts of yourself you were meant to protect. Sometimes Allah separates you because a person was becoming a test you didn't have the strength to resist. This is mercy in disguise. This is protection written in silence. This is love wrapped in separation. Allah breaks the worldly connection to save the spiritual connection. And one day you will look back and understand why the separation was necessary. Allah protects you from what you would never walk away from. Sometimes the hardest things to let go of are the very things Allah removes first. Not because you didn't love them, not because you didn't try, not because you didn't give your best, but because Allah knew you would never walk away on your own. Some hearts are too loyal, too soft, too forgiving, too attached, too patient, too willing to stay even when staying breaks them slowly. Allah doesn't punish such hearts. He protects them. He knows you would hold on long after the connection became heavy. He knows you would try again long after the bond became unhealthy. He knows you would keep giving chances even when the chances were costing pieces of your soul. He knows you would love deeply even when the love was draining your spirit. So Allah steps in at the moment your heart refuses to step back. He removes what you could never release. He closes doors you would never close. He ends chapters you would have rewritten forever. He takes people away who were quietly taking you away from yourself. There are things you cling to because your heart sees potential, but Allah sees the truth. You see memories, Allah sees wounds. You see comfort, Allah sees delay. You see hope, Allah says harm. You see what they were, Allah sees what they will become. Sometimes Allah removes a person because He knows the heartbreak you would face. If you stayed one more year, one more month, even one more week, there are truths you were not meant to see. There are shifts in their heart you were not meant to feel. There are changes in their intention you were not meant to detect. Allah saw those things and He removed them before they reached you. What you call loss is often Allah preventing a wound you were never strong enough to heal from. Some people would have broken you slowly, not in one moment, but in small unseen ways. By not valuing you, by not choosing you, by not protecting your feelings, by not caring for your soul, by taking your softness for granted until you no longer recognized yourself. You wouldn't have walked away. You would have endured the pain quietly. You would have stayed loyal to the memory of who they once were. You would have ignored the signs that your heart was fading. But Allah would never allow a heart He loves to keep drowning in a place where it was meant to flourish. So He removes you from the spaces you had no courage to leave. He takes people out of your life before they take pieces of your heart that cannot be rebuilt. You don't see the future harm. Allah sees it years ahead. You don't see the betrayal forming. Allah sees the first seed of it. You don't see the intention shifting. Allah sees the direction of their soul. You don't see the loneliness you would feel while holding on to them. Allah sees the silent tears you would have cried because of them. So He removes them while your heart is still full, because He knows if you stayed long enough, you would stay even after they stopped loving you. You would support them even after they stopped supporting you. You would lower yourself to keep them comfortable. Allah protects you from the version of you that loves too much and loses itself in the process. Some people were not meant to witness your next blessing, not because they were bad, but because they could not handle the weight of your growth. Some people would have held you back even without trying to. Some people would have dimmed your light just by being too close. Some people would have slowed your healing through their own unhealed wounds. Some people would have kept you stuck in cycles you were meant to escape. Allah saw your future and He saw who did not belong there. You think you lost them, but Allah knows you were rescued from futures that would have exhausted your soul. He knows you would not leave someone you love. So He removes them to protect the purity of your heart. He knows you would not walk away from a bond you cherish. So He closes the door before the bond becomes a chain. He knows you would not stop giving even when the giving empties you. So He takes the person away before you give parts of yourself you cannot get back. Some separations are not endings. They are divine surgeries. Allah is removing what is hurting you without letting you feel the cut. There are moments where you look back and ask, why did Allah take them away when I still cared? Why did He end it when I wasn't ready? Why did He separate us when I prayed to keep them? Because your heart was attached, but your soul was suffocating. Your feelings said stay, but your spirit said leave. Your love said hold on, but your destiny said let go. Allah listened to your destiny even when you weren't ready to. There are people you would have forgiven even after they broke you repeatedly. There are people you would have trusted even after they proved they were not safe. There are people you would have stayed loyal to even after their loyalty faded. Allah knew this, so He protected you from yourself. He removed the person not because they were always harmful, but because your attachment to them was becoming harmful to your soul. He knows your biggest weakness is your heart. You love deeply, you trust quickly, you forgive easily, you hold on tightly. These are beautiful traits, but dangerous when given to the wrong person. Allah protects beautiful hearts even from their own choices. So He removes the person you would never walk away from. He removes the opportunity you would have chased even if it hurt you. He removes the environment you would have stayed in even while it drained your energy. He removes the relationship you would have died trying to fix even though it was breaking you. He removes the friend you would have defended even while they were quietly hurting you. He removes the attachment you were too emotionally tied to see clearly. You think you lost something valuable, but Allah is saving you from losing yourself. You think you lost a beautiful connection, but Allah is saving you from a future version of that connection that would have destroyed your spirit. Some people are meant to stay in your heart, but not in your life. Some people are meant to be memories, not destiny. Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifelong homes. Allah removes people not to punish your love, but to protect your soul. He knows the danger you would walk into for their sake. He knows the sacrifices you would make to keep them close. He knows the pain you would tolerate silently just to preserve the bond. So He protects you from what you love when what you love would eventually break you. This is why the separation hurts so deeply, because Allah is cutting ties that your heart glued tightly. But this separation is not to empty your life. It is to free your destiny. It is to restore your clarity. It is to safeguard your peace. It is to protect your connection with Allah. One day you will understand that Allah removed what you would never have had the strength to release on your own. And when that day comes, your heart will whisper, Allah, thank you for saving me from what I thought I needed. Allah removes people to replace them with hearts that pray for you. There are people Allah removes from your life, not because the story is over, but because your heart is about to meet something better, something purer, something safer, something divinely chosen for you. When someone leaves, your first thought is loss, but Allah says replacement. Allah sees healing. Allah sees elevation. Allah sees a new beginning that your heart is not ready to understand yet. Not every person who walks away is a punishment. Some are cleared out to make space for souls who will pray for you in silence, who will love you for Allah's sake, who will guard your name behind your back, who will bring barakah into your life instead of draining it. There are hearts in this world that carry so much purity, Allah will not allow them to remain surrounded by those who carry jealousy or harm. And your heart is one of those. Allah removes people when their presence becomes a barrier between you and the sincere friendships He has written for your future. You feel the emptiness, but Allah sees the opening. You feel the loneliness, but Allah sees the preparation. You feel the ending, but Allah sees the beginning. Some people were never meant to stay because their hearts were not aligned with the goodness Allah wants to place in your life. They may have shown kindness out loud, but their souls were not peaceful around you. They may have smiled at you, but their hearts carried heaviness toward you. They may have supported you publicly, but their sincerity was unstable privately. Allah removes unstable hearts to make room for souls that will stand with you in dua, not against you in silence. There are hearts Allah is preparing right now, hearts that don't even know your name yet, but they will one day make dua for you with tears in their eyes. Hearts that will love you without jealousy, without envy, without competition, without hidden motives. Hearts that love you because they love Allah. To give you those hearts, Allah must first remove the ones that would break you. You don't understand the removal because you are looking at the past. Allah is looking at the future. You are remembering the memories. Allah is protecting the destiny. You are holding onto the familiar. Allah is guiding you to the divine. There were people you begged Allah to keep, but He removed them because the love you wanted from them was not the love He wanted for you. The ones who left were not capable of praying for you the way Allah wanted you to be prayed for, not capable of supporting you the way Allah wanted you to be supported, not capable of protecting you the way Allah wanted you to be protected. So Allah cleared the path. Sometimes Allah removes people because their hearts would never celebrate your victories, never honor your purity, never respect your growth, never understand your soul, never value your sincerity. Allah knows that you cannot rise when you are tied to hearts that are shrinking. So He cuts the tie before it cuts you. Removing someone is not rejection. It is divine selection. It is Allah saying, this soul cannot walk with you into the goodness I am preparing. Allah removes bitterness so He can send sincerity. He removes jealousy so He can send loyalty. He removes hypocrisy so He can send truth. He removes temporary affection so He can send love that lasts. He removes those who harm you so He can send those who heal you. Some people prayed for your downfall even while smiling in your presence. Allah removed them because they were blocking du'as that were meant to lift you. Some people secretly disliked your success while congratulating you publicly. Allah removed them because their envy would have contaminated your blessings. Some people carried heaviness in their hearts. Each time Allah elevated you, Allah removed them because the next chapter of your life requires people who rise with you spiritually, not people who sink deeper into resentment. For every person removed, Allah writes someone better, someone who fits your story, someone who aligns with your soul, someone who cherishes your presence, someone who values your heart, someone who sees your worth, someone who makes dua for you with sincerity that shakes the heavens. Allah doesn't remove to punish, He removes to replace. He removes so that the person coming into your life brings peace, not pain, growth, not guilt, healing, not harm, love, not weight, support, not confusion, prayer, not poison. You were not born to chase people who do not value your heart. You were born to receive love from people whose souls were shaped by Allah to match yours. There are friends Allah will send who will protect your name even when you're not in the room. There are companions Allah will send who will wipe your tears Before the world even sees them form, there are spouses Allah will send who will treat your heart as an amana, a trust from Him. There are strangers Allah will send who will pray for you with more sincerity than some people close to you ever did. No removal is random, no goodbye is wasted, no separation is without purpose. Allah removes to elevate what is coming next. He removes what blocks blessings. He removes what harms your soul. He removes what holds you back. He removes what delays your healing. He removes what distracts your heart. He removes what weakens your faith. He removes what darkens your spirit. You cried over who left, but you will smile when you meet who Allah is sending. You longed for the past, but you will be grateful when you embrace the future Allah wrote. You questioned the loss, but you will thank Allah when you see the replacement. There are hearts being prepared right now. Hearts that will protect your heart as if it is their own. Hearts that will dua for you more than they dua for themselves. Hearts that are connected to Allah and will help bring you closer to Him. Allah removes to make space for these hearts. If you have watched until this final moment, then understand something very important. Nothing that left your life left without Allah's permission. Nothing that broke you was allowed to destroy you. Nothing that changed without purpose. What you called a painful ending was actually a gentle beginning. What you saw as loss was written as protection. What you took as rejection was actually Allah saying, I am preparing something better for you. You may still feel the ache of the past. You may still wonder why certain people disappeared. You may still replay moments you wish ended differently. But after everything you heard today, you now know this. Allah removed them because their heart was no longer safe for yours. Allah separated you because their presence became a test you could not carry. Allah closed the chapter because your destiny could not grow in their shadow. And whenever Allah removes, He replaces, He gives better, He heals deeper, He writes something purer. There are hearts coming into your life that will pray for you in ways you've never been prayed for. There are people written for your story who will protect your name in rooms you are not in. There are souls Allah will send who hold no jealousy, no envy, no bitterness toward you, only dua, sincerity and peace. So breathe and trust the author of your destiny. He never subtracts without preparing to multiply. He never closes a door without opening one that leads to healing. He never takes something away except to replace it with something far better for your iman, your heart, and your future. As you leave this video, carry this truth with you. You were never rejected. You were redirected. May Allah fill your path with hearts that guide you closer to Him. May Allah write for you friendships and relationships that are sincere, pure, and protective. May Allah heal every wound that separation left behind. And may Allah surround you with souls who make dua for you, even in your absence. Ameen. Until we meet again, take care of your heart because Allah is already taking care of your story.